The Roman Empire conquered hundreds of peoples and tribes across Europe, West Asia, and North Africa. Its lands ranged from rainy Britain to hot Egypt. The domination of ancient Rome in the Mediterranean continued for more than 7 centuries. Julius Caesar was the first Roman leader who held the title of emperor and gained almost absolute power. At first, Caesar led a successful but long and bloody Gallic campaign, where he demonstrated his talents as a commander and conquered the territory of almost all of modern central and northern France. The most famous of this conquest was the Siege of Alesia, during which he managed to defeat the army of Gauls, Celts, which was almost twice as numerous. After that, in 49 BC, Caesar passed the Rubicon River, conquered Rome, and started a civil war to establish the sole authority. His experienced and trained troops defeated enemy armies with a greater number of soldiers, allowing him to develop his own dictatorship. However, not everyone liked the overthrow of the Republic. As a result of aristocratic conspiracy, in 44 BC, Caesar was killed in the Senate by a group of persons, which included his relative Brutus. His work was continued by Mark Antony and Octavian Augustus, who managed to defeat the troops of the supporters of the Republican regime. However, a confrontation between them ensued, culminating in Octavian's victory. Having become the sole ruler of Rome, Emperor Octavian led large-scale military campaigns and conquered the rebellious western coast of Mediterranean Africa, as well as Egypt, northern Spain, and much of the Danubian lands. However, ambitious plans to conquer Germany failed in the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. The rulers of the Roman Empire turned their attention to tribes and lands whose subjugation would be less bloody and yield more financial dividends. In 43, during the reign of Emperor Claudius, a full-scale Roman conquest of Great Britain began, which led to their occupation of the southern part of the island. Subsequently, the capture of the foggy Albion was continued by the succeeding emperors, especially Domitian, who managed to briefly conquer almost the entire British Isle, except for modern North Scotland. However, the proud British Celts put up a desperate resistance, waged an unstoppable guerrilla war, massacred countless Roman lieutenants, and managed to push the Romans back to the northern borders of modern England. The Roman Empire reached its greatest size during the reign of Emperor Trajan. At the beginning of his reign, Trajan fortified the Roman frontiers bordering the Germanic tribes, then began extensive preparations for the conquest of Dacia, including the recruitment of new troops, the establishment of military bases, and the development of provisions. At the head of an army of more than 150,000 soldiers, the emperor conducted 2 military campaigns and, in a stubborn struggle, defeated the recalcitrant Dacians and their allies. This victory allowed the Romans to conquer most of modern Romania and removed the threat to the Danubian provinces of the Roman Empire. Trajan then turned his attention to the eastern borders. The emperor first conquered the Nabatean kingdom and subsequently began preparations for war with the powerful Parthian kingdom. The bone of contention was the throne of the Armenian king, on which both Romans and Parthians sought to place their protege. Trajan transferred 11 legions and a significant contingent of auxiliary troops to the eastern borders of his empire. He first captured Armenia, which he made a Roman province, depriving it of its autonomy. The Roman troops then set off to Mesopotamia, where they defeated the Parthian troops and marched victoriously as far as the Persian Gulf. The Parthian king fled his capital Ctesiphon, while Trajan annexed the conquered provinces to the Roman Empire. However, high taxes, looting, and lawlessness of the Roman garrisons caused the revolt of the inhabitants of Mesopotamia, and after the death of Trajan, the Romans finally lost the region. What is the secret of the power of the ancient Romans? Above all, the Roman Empire relied on its powerful army. The Roman army, after the reforms of Gaius Marius, became professional. The soldiers signed a contract for 16 years, during which they devoted their lives to the service of Rome. In addition, Roman citizens retained the duty of military service, so the emperors often resorted to forced recruitment to armed troops. The main force was heavy infantry armed with gladius and spatha swords, large shields, and pilum darts. The infantry was clad in armor. These infantrymen united in centuria. The centuria were amalgamated into a cohort of 360 to 600 men, and the 10 cohorts formed a legion, which also included auxiliary units of archers and cavalry. At first, Roman infantry usually threw darts at opponents. Then, in a brutal fight, they defeated enemies with their swords and shields. The Roman legions numbered from 25 to 35, and the Roman army numbered over 350,000 soldiers, which was a fantastic figure for ancient times. In addition, there were auxiliary troops, engineering detachments, and an elite Praetorian Guard, where the most skilled soldiers from the legions gathered. Maintaining such a war machine required considerable resources. 127 million denarii, or about $409 million in modern equivalent, was spent on the annual salary of the entire Roman army in the early 2nd century. However, the amount of funds provided for military needs was much larger, because the money was actively allocated for engineering purposes, the food supply of the army, the purchase and creation of weapons, etc. The Roman army was renowned for its tactical flexibility and bravery. Often, the Romans easily defeated the much larger but weaker organized armies of the Dacians and the Germans. Military service was a great opportunity for poor people from the province to obtain Roman citizenship, a prestigious military position, and later, even the imperial throne. For example, the founder of the Flavian dynasty, Titus Vespasian, due to his successful service in the army and support of the Eastern legions, seized power in 69. In the Roman army, there was strict discipline supported by cruel punishments. One of them was the decimation, a form of Roman military discipline in which every 10th man in a group that retreated without orders from the battlefield was executed by members of his cohort. Ancient Roman diplomacy was one of the most effective in its era. If Asterix and Obelix had existed, they would have long ago been feuding with each other and beating each other to death thanks to the intrigues of Roman diplomats. Ancient Rome professed the imperial principle of divide and rule, according to which at first Roman agents tried to strengthen the contradiction between tribes on the territory adjacent to the empire. Then, having stood on the side of one of them, the Romans conquered the territory exhausted by internal struggles. For example, during the Gallic campaign of Julius Caesar, the Romans first acted as nominal protectors of some Gallic tribes which suffered from the aggression of the Germanic Swedes. Then they conquered Gaul and established domination which was even harsher over their former allies. The key to successful military campaigns was comprehensive information about enemies and neighbors, which the Roman Empire received from an extensive intelligence system. There was a system of military intelligence through speculators who spied on foreign lands and gave their testimony by encryption with shifted letters. This technique was used during World War II. In addition, intelligence was complemented by representatives of the Roman Empire's courier postal service, who often checked the letters of Roman citizens. Under Emperor Domitian, 81 to 96, intelligence and counterintelligence functions began to be carried out by the Frumentari organization that had previously provided food and fodder for the troops. The separation of intelligence functions between different agencies allowed more information to be gathered and reduced the risk of misinformation in case of recruitment of an intelligence agent by the enemy. The dominance of the Roman Empire was reinforced by advanced Roman technology in logistics and military affairs. The saying of that time, "All roads lead to Rome," vividly illustrated the wide scale of road building in the Roman Empire. The extensive network of Roman stone roads made it possible to quickly move tens of thousands of troops from one war front to another, as well as to receive information about the situation in different provinces of the empire. On average, the Roman army, thanks to its roads, covered 40 kilometers a day. Postal couriers on horseback could cover about 70 kilometers. But on special occasions, the courier could travel 1,300 kilometers in 9 days, as happened after the Roman defeat in the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. The presence of an extensive transportation network accompanied the flourishing of trade. Due to that, taxes brought the Roman treasury about 95 million denarii annually. The developed system of aqueducts and mobile military hospitals allowed to reduce the mortality rate from diseases and injuries. As a result, the combat capacity of the Roman troops increased, and the level of prosperity of civilians grew.